Good. Welcome, Bob. Okay. Call the meeting to order. This is the October 8th regular council meeting for the town of Hideout, Utah. The meeting is an electronic meeting because of the no anchor site determination that I've made, which is not linking right now, but I'll pull it up. As a reminder to everyone, on September 24th, I re-signed determination regarding conducting town of Hideout public meetings on an anchor location due to the health risks associated with COVID-19 and the fact that the town hall is quite small and very difficult to do much physical distancing for more than 3 or 4 people. So that's why we're doing this entirely electronically.
And if you can just read, I know it's painful, but the state has required us to read that, your determination letter.
Okay.
And I think you could also comment about the spike that's been in Summit and Wasatch County this last week.
Yeah. The mayor of the town of Hideout hereby determines that conducting a meeting with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location pursuant to Utah Code Section 52-4-207 sub 4 and Hideout Town Ordinance 2020-03. The facts upon which the determination based include the percent and number of positive COVID-19 cases in Utah has been over 5%. Those tested since May 27th, and the 7-day average of cases has been over 200 since May 27th. COVID-19 patients in Utah hospitals has been significant during the same time period. This meeting will not have a physical anchor location. All attendees will connect remotely. All public meetings are available via Zoom conference call, and interested parties may join in by dialing with the information down below. Additionally, comments may be mailed to the town clerk at afairborn@hideoututah.gov. This determination expires in 30 days on October 21st, where, based on what's going on, I will likely reinstate it. Okay? That work, Polly?
Perfect. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. All right. I'm going to do roll call. So, Carol Hazelton.
Here.
Thank you. Jerry Dwinell.
Here.
Chris Byer.
Here.
Bob Nadelberg.
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum of the council as it is at the moment. We'll be talking about that in a few minutes. The next item on the agenda is approval of the August 12th council meeting, which is a draft. The August 12th council meeting turned out to be a non-council meeting. So the minutes are pretty straightforward.
Move to accept.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
excuse me, son. Chris,
Yes.
Jerry, sorry, to Carol.
Yes.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. Thank you, Alicia. That was a tough one. Appreciate all your effort on that. It was a tough one. Okay, next is public input. Public input, floor is open to any attending speaker on items not listed on the agenda and not related to the annexation, for which we will have a public hearing on Monday, October 12th, 2020. Written comment on the annexation is also welcome and can be emailed to hideout@hideoututah.gov. People keep asking why we're not doing public input on the annexation, and the reason is, besides having the public hearing scheduled on the 12th, is the annexation rules require us to wait 30 days before minimum of 30 days before taking input. That's to ensure that all of the messaging that goes out, that the newspaper advertisements and so forth that go to potentially impacted people, people have a chance to see that and participate. So I know that many people have high energy for that particular topic, and we'll have time on Monday evening to hear that. So with that in mind, if you were to a member of the community who wanted to make a comment not on annexation or items on the agenda, you would need to raise your hand using a Zoom hand raising. So we can see if you have something you want to ask. I'm not seeing any, and so I'm going to close public input and move on to the agenda. Okay. Item 1, discussion and possible action regarding filling the council vacancy. As the council is aware, Councilman Shadle, former Councilman Shadle resigned from the council, and we've had a vacancy. We do have a candidate. I'm pleased to say Ralph Severini has put his name forward. We all know Ralph well from the Planning Commission, and he's been an active member of the PC for quite some time. I'm going to open the floor to Ralph to allow him to say a few words on his interest, and then we can discuss it as a council. So Ralph, if you would unmute and give us your stump speech.
Hey, Mayor. Don't have much of a stump speech, to the councilors. I think you want to know about my interest. I guess I'd say a couple of things. I'm, been on the Planning Commission for 28 months or so. When Jerry and Kurt and I and Sarah all joined, during that time, I think we wrote the general or master plan, as they call it. The overall annexation policy and new zoning and titles. So I would just say I'm pretty much been involved. So I think I know a good deal about our town and our goals, and been consistent during this period of time. And I would just say, we're at a tough time a lot of things are going on, to say the least. And I would just apply my knowledge and experience to our challenges at hand. So I think in some cases you could lean out of it, so to speak. And I'm just kind of leaning into it. And that's why I got more, we'd get more involved. So as we say in business, that's really it. You're welcome to, anyone's welcome to ask any questions of me.
Thank you, Ralph.
I'd like to
So
add,
council,
I'd like to add to that.
go ahead,
So,
Jerry.
as Ralph mentioned, he's been part of the Planning Commission the same time that I was appointed. Ralph was appointed as well, so we've served together quite a while in that body. Ralph's an integral part of that, and he was instrumental in all of the things that were accomplished in the last roughly 2 years. So, he's an asset to the town.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
I agree. Anyone else from council, questions or comments around Ralph?
Hey, this is Chris. I just want to say thank you, Ralph, for stepping forward. I don't have many questions for you because I know you, but I do appreciate your willingness to join the council, and I'm really glad that you've put your hat in the ring.
Thanks, Chris.
And I'd like to say that you will be a welcome addition to our council.
And thanks, Carol.
Okay. So Polly, would you help me with the language of how are we, the language and how we, well, I guess we would have to agree to do that as a council, and then Alicia can swear him in, I believe is how it works, right?
Yes, so I'm just looking at Utah Code 20A-1-510, which is midterm vacancies in municipal offices. And you have noticed it, and you have had the individual interested interviewed and talk about his qualifications. And so I think you will need to have a vote concerning the appointment. And then after that, I think the town clerk can sign it, can swear him in.
I'd like to clarify the term that that he would be allotted to.
He will fulfill the term of the seat. And my understanding, according to the website, is that it expires January 13th, 2020. So that would be the remainder of the
That would
term.
be the past. 2020's past.
2022, sorry.
Okay. So it was my understanding that the seat would be filled until the next election cycle. Am I incorrect in that? I thought I heard that.
So it depends on when the vacancy occurs.
Okay.
And it is, if it's an odd year, so it would be an election to fill a 2-year term if the vacancy occurs before the deadline for filing for election in an odd number year. But since we're in an even number year, you just do out the rest of this term.
Our next election is actually November of 2021 for going into office in January of 22.
Okay.
So either way, it kind of is the same.
So that means Ralph's with us, then Phil, right?
Yeah, because Kurt came in that same cycle.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
actually,
Kurt
he came in.
filled
Yeah, right.
Doug's
He's
seat.
Doug's spot.
Yeah.
But then he re-upped, I believe. No?
Kurt filled Doug's seat. Hans, Phil, and I ran at the same time.
Right.
Doug was already a council member for 2 years when we were elected.
Got it.
Actually, he was a council member for far longer than that.
Okay. All right. So I need looking for a vote of council to support Ralph filling the vacant seat of Kurt Shadle. So, Chris?
Okay, I think you need just do a motion first and then.
Oh, a motion? Okay, I need a motion to, okay, thanks. That's what I was looking for, Polly. Okay, a motion to have Ralph assume the vacant seat on the council
I so moved.
until, thanks, Bob, January of 22. Or the next election, sorry, November of, well, So
No,
the next election cycle.
yeah, he stays on until
Okay.
January 2022.
Yep. So Bob, with the motion, I need a second for that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. All right, Chris,
Yes,
Jerry,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Bob.
Yes, welcome aboard, Ralph. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Ralph. I'm hoping that you will stay and join the council meeting for the rest of the evening.
Yeah, you probably stuck with me here.
Okay.
Alicia, are you gonna read me my rights or whatever? How does
Yeah,
this go?
that's next.
Or does Polly do that?
now does he,
So Alicia-
is he officially seated after his oath, which means he becomes the
Yep.
fifth member tonight?
Yep,
Yes,
Okay.
the intent.
All right, good.
So Alicia, if you don't mind.
All right, Ralph, if you want to go ahead and raise your right hand. All right, repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Ralph Severini,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
You're in. Congratulations.
Welcome
thank
aboard,
you.
Ralph.
yep,
Welcome,
welcome.
Ralph. Thank you.
Good to join you guys.
We've just created another problem though, right, Ralph?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm going to address that.
I know.
yeah. And yeah, let's talk about that.
We're going to address that in just a minute. Okay, so the next topic is discussion and possible consent of the council to changes in leadership and new members to the planning commission. So with the movement of Ralph to the town council, it leaves a vacancy in the planning commission as far as leadership. I have spoken to the remaining members of the planning commission and am recommending that Tony Matuzik become the acting chair of the planning commission effective immediately. Tony is traveling right now and wanted some time to think about his position as far as becoming permanent, but my hope is that he will accept that position. So we would, I'm looking to your consent to appoint him as the acting chair. I also would recommending that we move Donna Turner, who is the alternate, onto the planning commission to fill the vacancy left by
Sarah?
John. I know,
John.
or is it actually by Ralph?
Oh.
Well, no, actually by Jerry, because Ralph went into Jerry's spot. So
Well,
Don going into
Ralph was already
Ralph's spot.
a voting
Right.
member of the planning commission, so yeah.
So backfilling Ralph, and then also want to recommend that Ryan Sapp become a member of the planning commission as well. Ryan is a landowner up in Soaring Hawk and soon to be a home owner as well as he works on that. Ryan, I'm assuming that's you on the iPhone because I don't see you anywhere else. So I'm going to unmute you, ask you to unmute. I don't know how to do that. There you go.
I think I'm on mute now.
You are.
Yeah,
So Ryan, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the council, and then we'll let the council ask questions and if they've got some.
great. Thank you. Yes, my name's Ryan Sapp. I am a 20-year resident of the area. Moved here in 2000. I've got 3 children. One just graduated from Park City High School. One's a senior, and I have a 9th grader. My background has been in development. Believe I built my first house in '96. So I've been around real estate for quite a while. And, as far as my interest, I feel, I feel like the Park City area has given me a lot. And I'm kind of at the point in my life and career where I want to give back and contribute. So being a homeowner in the Hideout area, in an area that I've always thought has had some of the most beautiful views and location and everything, I think it's a good time to kind of throw my hat in the ring and see, just here to help out any way I can.
So I've been working with Ryan off and on for probably 6 months now, as he's done some work in asking questions about Soaring Hawk and so forth. He brings a wealth of experience on the build side, which I think is going to be great for the Planning Commission as the Planning Commission works through the various things that we've been working on as far as code and updates to those things, and can help, I think, provide a builder's perspective as well for the Planning Commission. So I recommend him heartily. Council, questions?
We are underrepresented for Soaring Hawk, so it's good to see someone from Soaring Hawk willing to serve. So that's a positive. I also like the background that you have. I think that should be welcome information, welcome skills within the Planning Commission.
Fantastic.
Chris, Carol, Bob, any questions for Ryan?
Negative.
I don't have any questions for Ryan, but I'm glad, as Jerry said, to have someone representing Soaring Hawk. We've been looking for that for a while now, and happy you stepped forward. I do have a question, Mayor, about future members of the Planning Commission. Have you been thinking about trying to widen the search area for potential members that are, outside of the town itself? I know that we're keep talking about regional planning and such. In the future, when there are other vacancies, is it possible to kind of cast the net wider than simply within the Hideout borders?
So Chris, there are, assuming we seat Ryan, there's still 3 vacancies, 1 voting and 2 alternates. So that condition exists now.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
Let me think.
Is that allowed legally, to have someone that doesn't live in, is not a resident, to be part of the Planning Commission?
Yes, it's depends on what your code says, but there's nothing that restricts it in the code that I've seen. And I've seen that in other jurisdictions as well, especially small towns.
I like Chris's suggestion that if we can get, someone from our neighboring communities to sit on that, that would be really helpful.
I'd also like to add, there were 2 ladies who contacted me. I think they're both from Shoreline. Both, one yesterday or today, and then one about 2-3 weeks ago. And the person who was there about 3 weeks ago, Phil, she had 10 years of planning experience in one of the townships, and I can't remember, Bedminster Township in Pennsylvania, I believe. So she had a lot of experience. I don't think she was here a year, but that's not a requirement anyway. So I think we have two other people that potentially are of interest, certainly are interested and shared their interest.
Yeah, I got the copy that you sent me today from the person who's a letter of interest, and we'll be looking to set up a time to chat with her.
And
We
there was the
also,
lady previously, Phil, who
yeah, and I reached out to her, and she said that she's been quite busy, but will get me something over the weekend as far as a formal letter of interest, which I will then share with you all for review. And then, Chris, as the regional stuff grows, I think that we're more than open to that. If we can think about who we might want to go arm twist.
Well,
and see
Mayor, I
if they
think
are
you've put things in next door before, and
Yeah.
I suppose the additional language to invite people from these other communities, because they might think, well, I'm not a Hideout resident, so this doesn't apply to me, or I'm not eligible for it. So maybe with a little bit more language to say, you know, we're actively seeking folks from outside of Hideout as well.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
you know, I know that we're a very small town, right? 1,000 or so people, but we have a lot of talent moving in. It's really phenomenal, the kind of people that are coming here to live, like Ryan, who has all this experience, in the Park City area. Ralph, who's got experience out of state. Same thing with Carol. She had planning commission experience. So, and then the folks that you had mentioned who are, shoreline residents, we actually have surprising amount of depth from the actual residents here. I was just wondering if we had an outside perspective on the planning commission as well, if that would be, help help the body, do their work and be able to share ideas and have differing opinions about things. I just thought it might be nice to get a little more regional variety on the commission, but it's not by any means necessary for them to function. Because like I said, I think we have a lot of great talent who lives inside Hideout.
Thank you, Chris. So, these are appointed positions appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of council. So I am looking for consent of council to appoint Tony as acting chair, and then move Donna and Ryan to full positions on the planning commission.
Well, since
So
I'm leaving at the chair position, I guess, why don't I make that motion, Phil? And to the two, certainly Donna, and if Tony's acceptable, to the acting chair.
And Ryan's appointment.
And Ryan's appointment.
Now, Mayor, do you need a motion, or do you just need concurrence?
I believe I just need concurrence.
Yeah, I support those changes.
I support them also.
Same here. I guess I already said that.
Yeah.
And I do as well. And I want to thank everyone for stepping forward
Right.
To fill these positions where they're very, very important positions in the town.
Sounds good. Thanks for everyone who's stepping up.
That you, Bob?
Affirmative.
Okay. Well, thank you guys, and thank you to all that are stepping up. So welcome, Ryan. Congratulations, Donna. And I say Tony's traveling, or he'd been here tonight, but and I thank Tony for his willingness to step into that position. it's not easy to accept that kind of responsibility. And I'm, you know, as Chris said, we're blessed to have the kind of folks in our community that want to participate in that way. So that's a great thing. So thank you all. Okay. Item 3 is going to sound very familiar.
I was going to say, I thought we already did this.
Well, we did, Jerry, but there is language in the Utah code that says that you can't undo what you've done with a smaller council than the one that put it in.
Oh.
So because we had 5 members of.
And let me just, sorry to interrupt, because you got it exactly right, except that if you do it in a special meeting, so you could do it with less than the number if it was a regular meeting, which you also have tonight.
Okay. So we did a special meeting where we only had 4 members and it was passed with 5. So we have to do this again. So there's nothing different in the language. This is a legal cleanup of the one we did back on September, whatever it was. So this is the same language exactly. And so I just need a motion to approve to allow me to sign the document rescinding the July 14th pre-annexation development and reimbursement agreement.
I so move.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, Jerry,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
thank you, Bob,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
thank you all. Now have that cleaned up and proper. Okay. The next one is discussion and possible approval of the final plat for Lakeview Estates subdivision. Thomas is on, I know. There he is. And you have the ability to unmute, Thomas. So if you would like to unmute and sort of bring us all up to speed on where we are, that would be helpful. And Ralph, you're also here and you were part of that meeting, so by all means jump in. But we'll start with Thomas, if that's okay.
So with regard to Lakeview, the application was heard by the Planning Commission. And if you remember, there was a request to kind of go back, do a redesign, kind of look at the layout for that subdivision and look at opportunities for larger lots where necessary, a little bit more connectivity with regard to open space, and most importantly, connectivity to the 2 neighborhoods on either side, the north and the south. So Shoreline and Deer Waters to the north. And so the applicant took that back and worked closely with us on a redesign and came back and submitted, met with the Planning Commission at the September 13th meeting, where they recommended for approval with some conditions. I could pull up the Planning Commission report if you wanted it, but I don't know that it's necessary unless somebody needs to see the layout or you want to see any of the revisions that maybe you don't remember. I'm not sure.
I'm going to share the layout from, I think you're seeing now. Are we seeing this?
That's
Yes, if maybe you could zoom in a little though.
Yeah, I will. I gotta, first I wanted to make, sorry, hang on, let me go back to it. Where did I put it? There it is. I wanted to, before I made it bigger and all that, I was gonna ensure that I actually had the right thing up.
So
A lot of stuff on the screen, but
That doesn't look right because I see hammerheads. I don't.
that was the
that's the
original.
original.
Okay.
That's where
That's
it's
the original.
And
I
then
believe this is the revised.
we worked with Nate on on a revision. They did a great job. They came forward with this design, and you can see on the south
Oh,
side they connected.
I went too far. Sorry.
You're fine. And on the north
Come
side,
back.
a connection into Deerwaters, and then of course on the east side, kind of toward the north, there's also the connection to Shoreline. So maintain much better connectivity, improvements in terms of fire safety access, as well as creating more contiguous open space kind of in the area up in both phase 3 and over in phase 2, where there's a linear park system and a trail.
And Thomas, can you speak to where we wound up with on setbacks?
So the setbacks, I think they're, Mayor, if you have that, since you have that,
Yeah,
report,
I do.
show it, it'd be on the next page down. And you can see that the new proposal has alternating 20 and 25-foot setbacks from the back of curb and gutter. That's a little bit less than where we had started, but remember, the benefit of that was significantly reduced retaining walls, where we had greater than 18, 20, 22, 24-foot retaining walls. Now we are down to a maximum of typically 4s and 6s. I think there may be one 10-foot retaining wall. So reducing the setback a little bit, but maintaining the staggered component of the streetscape characteristic did significantly reduce the scale of those retaining walls.
So to be clear, the statute called for what front setbacks was it 25 and 30, and we granted 20 and 25. Is that right?
That's correct, because you had, I think maybe with the rezoning, you had incorporated a clause for 25 and 30 staggering front setbacks, and now it would be 20 and 25. So you lost 5 feet on both.
Yeah. And that we did that so that we could reduce the number of retaining walls that were necessary.
And that made a massive difference. The amount of retaining walls and the scale of those retaining walls was significantly reduced by more than 60%, actually.
And then we reduced a few of the back setbacks as well. Is that right?
That's correct. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lots that are noted there, where the rear yard setbacks are, instead of the 20-foot rear yard setback requirement, a few of them are 15, there's a 17, and a couple of 18-foot setbacks. And again, that also helped reduce the scale of the retaining walls by giving more slope opportunity, as well as maintaining the staggered component in the neighborhood, the setbacks, the front setbacks.
And we're at how many total homes now?
It is 69.
And can we talk a bit about the parks and trails that was that's in this final plan?
Yes. So let's see, on the bottom left side of that drawing, the southwest side, you can kind of see in light blue, that's an area where a park has been proposed. You can see there's also some 90-degree on-street parking in that location. I think that Nate can clarify if I get this wrong, and it hasn't been exactly finalized, but I think that's like a half basketball court that also can serve as a pickleball court and or other things. But that is one of the conditions of approval, is to finalize exactly what that is, finalize and get town approval. That if you go slightly to the right of where that court is, you can see that property line easement, that power line easement right there. That is also a 10-foot wide. I think it came in as crushed granite originally, but I think now it's going to be an asphalt trail that will connect up to Deer Waters to the north. So that extends through the entire subdivision.
And there was talk at one time of a dog wash.
That is over at the top of lot 213, right where your cursor is.
Okay, so that's still in the plan.
That is still in the plan.
And there was also some talk about a path to because there was a playground slated for Deerwater Phase 3.
So
And there was
the bottom right of this drawing, you can kind of see where that dark text is. There's a path up there. There's a park that is proposed up there. And if you see that area that says storm, I think it says storm public utility easement above lot 217, kind of in the middle of the furthest right row of housing.
yeah, kind of a pie shape.
You see that kind of pie shape area? That's where a stairwell trail connection is to take folks up from Lakeview up to that park, should they want to access that park up there.
Okay. Well, it sounds like all the good stuff stayed in, so that's good to see.
One other issue that was kind of important. It's kind of a technicality, but over near where the dog wash is, there's also an opportunity to connect to the trail that is over near the at the Jordanelle State Park area. And one of the issues that we think we're going to confront down the road is that if we do want to connect our trail systems to their trail systems, we have a few things to resolve with regard to passes and things like that. But one of the issues is where their trail connects to our trail. It's our understanding that that can't be on private property. So we're asking for a small, maybe a 10 by 10 foot pad that would be deeded to the town so that that would be public, so that we could make that access should that ever be a requirement and necessary. So we've got a significant amount of connectivity in the within the neighborhood.
And where we connect your line, anything we need to know about there?
Where it connects to shoreline, is that what you said?
Yep.
In terms of the road connection?
Yes.
So the road connection, so Nate, this developer of this property will take it all the way to the property line, and then it will be the responsibility of Shoreline to connect their road system in.
Do we have any way of ensuring that that occurs?
We are working with, I don't know if Ryan from TO is on, but we are working with the developer.
Mayor, you're showing your email right now. You probably don't want to do that.
I'm trying to show specifically the minutes of the meeting, which show all the conditions that we would be, that are in the approval.
Yeah, I didn't start to read it before I said anything. I wanted to make sure you knew you weren't showing publicly something you didn't want to show.
No.
I'm sorry, Thomas, you were saying you're working with the
We're working with Ryan as well as the Shoreline developer to ensure that happens. We've been given verbal commitment that that will happen, and they are working through their engineering right now.
Okay.
But the grades,
there were
Ryan and Paul at Gateway Engineering for Nate, as well as, again, Shoreline is working through their connections, but all of the grading has been done, and it does work. Slopes work, meets town requirements, etc.
So any approval would be subject to the resolving the conditions that are listed, both from the engineering and the planning commission, which I think are all in this document. So just for you guys to be aware that, when we vote to approve, we're voting to approve subject to the resolution of all the conditions listed here.
And Mayor, could I just add could just go through a few conditions that we had outlined at the planning commission meeting and with Nate, but just so that everybody's clear?
Please.
Yeah, are they not on here, Thomas? I'll pull your letter up. I thought they were on here, but I can pull your letter
I
up.
think that most of them are on there, but we've kind of finessed them just a little bit to make it easier. There are 7 conditions. If I could,
Okay, sure.
just that there would be a submittal of a final landscape plan, a submittal of a final design and engineering specifications and materials for the retaining walls, the inclusion of a plat note indicating that all open space and park amenities will commence construction at the start of phase 2, submittal of final design for the park area and the dog wash station and structures, submittal of detailed trail dimensions, materials, associated landscaping, a dedication of land to the town where the trail connects to the Jordanelle State Park. Again, that could be about a 10 by 10 square foot area. And there may be some parking located up near parcels B and G for visitor parking. We'll work with the applicant on that to ensure that it meets street widths, parking standards, and slope standards. If we can get it in there, we will. If it doesn't meet the standards, we will reduce that parking. That's it. Oh, there you go.
So maybe a silly question here, but the developer submits the engineering specs and materials for the retaining walls, and we don't like them. What then?
So typically what you do is have your town engineer and your town planner review them. So myself and Ryan would review them. If they do not meet the requirements that were set out by both the town council and the planning commission, we would bring them back for you for final approval. You would have to confirm, but we've honed down pretty detailed drawings at this point. They've just not been submitted in final format.
Hey, Thomas, is your summary in addition to the 7 items, or is it additional comment to the summary of items that we kind of left off with in our
These would be
minute?
in addition to the items that you saw in the minute. Some are clarification, some are in addition,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that these were incorporated as well.
Thanks. That makes a lot of sense. Good.
I know it takes time, but I want to make sure that we all understand what the conditions are. So these I'm fine with, but I didn't get a chance to read all of the other ones. Maybe I missed it, but I haven't reviewed those prior to this meeting.
Yeah, Jerry, I'm with you. I think we got those in our email from Alicia. Today.
Yeah, I know a bunch of stuff came in today, and I've been slammed in today, so I haven't had a chance to review that. But so, Mayor, maybe if we can go back to that other email and make sure that we review those.
Yeah, let's step through those because I see upgrading the lift station mentioned in there, so I definitely want to take a step through those.
And I think those were from Ryan's report from TO.
They were.
And so there's some of those, and I think some of the additional items that we reviewed at the planning commission meeting, and Thomas's, excellent summary here. So probably would be.
This is your note, Ralph. I think this is, if we're seeing the note that's has the title Thursday meeting material.
No, we're seeing your PDF.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's try again. Oh, I didn't click share, my bad. Now you're seeing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's step through each of the 7 items in here. I don't know who wants to walk us through it.
So these are engineering items. Well, I'll happily do my best to fill in for them since I don't think we've got engineering on the phone tonight.
I just text Ryan, could join if there was a question. We'll see.
But so there was a letter from TO, and these points address the letter from TO, so I can pull the letter from TO up, and he's basically wanting to make sure that that the drainage in the SWIP plan and drainage was well thought out, and that was addressed in the planning commission review, that they were satisfied with it.
Because we did have an issue in shoreline phase 2, didn't we, with a drainage?
Yes, we did. We
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, that was a big problem, shoreline phase 2. And I'm going to call it learning experience, because they managed to ruin a trail that we had built in the state park. And we had to have a work day to fix it with a lot of volunteers and a little bit of an expense. So I don't think that ever got resolved as far as, what they're going to do to make us whole.
If you let me know what the expenses are, Chris, I'll make sure we get paid.
Okay, a couple of loads of gravel and some volunteer time.
Okay. Well, gravel I can pay for. The volunteer time I can't.
No, that's
actually
okay.
pay your people.
We're going to use that volunteer time toward our in-kind matching for a grant that Hans had gotten for the state park to build some trails. So we actually need those volunteer hours for that. So it's really just the materials we're looking for, as well as, them not doing it again.
Yeah, well, Ryan has worked with them on that. They've put in piping. They've changed the flows. They've done a number of things that should mitigate the issue that was there before.
I have to admit, I haven't been on those trails in a while. I kind of don't go there during hunting season, since that state park is open to deer hunting now. But I'm going to go out there and take a look and see what it looks like in the near future. I'll get back to you.
Okay. Item 2 is that there has to be a will serve letter from the utility providers, and we don't normally issue permits without we don't issue permits to build without a will serve letter. So we have checks and balances in place around that. And that the approval of the final plat obviously needs to be done, which is fine. That's also part of our standard process. So in item 4, what we have done here, and I don't want to get super technical, but we've just completed a sewer model with TO's help, and and have reviewed it with JSSD. What was granted for Deer Waters was granted by the prior administration, and it really wasn't up to snuff. And we've worked out with the developer that we can actually save him some money versus building a separate lift station, because the Deer Waters one is not sufficient to service this. He would have to build another lift station, and it makes more sense to remove the Deer Waters lift station, not build a lift station here, feed everything to the new lift station that was created for Shoreline, and upgrade that lift station. We come out with a much better and much more maintainable solution. We get some redundancy in lines, which is great. Gives us a chance to deal with, if we have to do any work on lines, we can bypass and stuff like that. So so this is a win-win. We believe it reduces the cost that the developer would have to spend for just doing Lakeview, and it helps us make a much better sewage management system down in Shoreline. So
I just have to ask this,
Um,
are these considered project improvements then?
Or are they system improvements?
Or are they system improvements? The only reason I ask is because we've had, we've been talking for several years and just recently passed our impact fee, IFFP.
Well, this is, I mean, we'll have to get the legal opinion on it, Chris, but I mean, this is work that's being driven by a project. So I think it would fall into, but but it's in support of a town infrastructure. So I don't know. We'll have to we can look at that offline and come back on that.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know that it affects our approval of it, but we certainly can try and understand it.
I think the point, Chris, is that there may be some credits that haven't been accounted for in this. Is that your thinking?
I just trying to establish for the record that these are project improvements. That's all.
Okay.
Item 5, we just had a conversation about the retaining walls and the geotech, and they have to meet the town guidance on that. And Thomas and Ryan would look at those. If there were questions, they would come back to us. Item 6 is a water plan and a sewer plan, which we were just talking about. I mentioned that we have done sewer and water models. The results of those models lead us towards the redesigns that we've talked about tonight, but we would run the models with these redesigns to confirm that what we're showing is the right solution. So we're basically crossing T's and dotting I's here. So, the model showed some issues with the existing plan. This new plan appears to resolve the issues with the current environment. But, what we'll do is, now that we're agreed that we're going to do this, the engineering team is redoing the modeling to reflect these changes, and hopefully we'll confirm that we're going to come out a lot better. And then, SWIP needs to be done, and notice of intent be filed. Those are standard items, and that's part of our normal process.
And Chris, just to answer your question, I text Ryan, who's stuck in another meeting right now. The lift station, those are considered project improvements. Those are the responsibility of the developer. So you're right.
Thank you, Thomas.
Good. So Mayor, remind the council when bonds are due in this process before the plat is recorded.
But there's some with recording, and there's some with permits.
Okay.
Jerry. So, and again, there's we don't have to put in this language, these approvals, because these are our processes, and you don't get things done if you haven't provided the payments for the various things that we require. So none of these reduce the requirement of anyone to meet the town's rules for commencing building.
There was one other item at the very bottom there that just on the easement.
Yeah, and we talked about that a few minutes ago, Ralph. I think Thomas was trying to address that around the state park entrance.
Okay, good. As long as I didn't mean, that was a kind of a hanging chad, so to speak, but I thought it needed to be included in the email.
No, that's a good question. We're still trying to figure out the exact location dimension. We'll work with Nate on that, though.
Good.
Yeah, and Ralph, I was, I had some involvement in that attempt to gain access to the state park. It may never happen. It may happen. It's actually an open question at this point. I think in my past discussions with the state park manager, they were looking for the town to, provide. Really, it's a fee. The state park is a fee area. So in order to use, use the trails, park there, go jump in the water with your kayak, that's a fee area, and everyone who uses the park is expected to pay the fee. Those park annual hang tags, they're good for a vehicle that has 8 people in it, so essentially gets you and your entire family into the park for the same fee. But we would have to negotiate with the park what that fee might be, that might have to be collected from really all of the town, rather than just from this subdivision, but rather from all the town, since it's fair that people who are outside of the subdivision would, hike in, ride their bikes in, or somehow potentially access through this, special connection. Otherwise, everyone can just drive down to, or drive, walk, cycle down to Ross Creek and just use the main entrance at the park.
Which, has been greatly facilitated of late by the new, the completion of the road and the paved trail and so forth. So where once upon a time this was this opportunity to enter a different way was a big convenience because the road was under construction and so forth. It becomes a lot easier now. So if it doesn't work out with the park, it's it's disappointing, but it's not the same level of inconvenience that it would have been a year ago.
Yeah, plus this is going to connect to the paved trail. That's all, there's a paved trail already in there that Nate put in, and it'll be connecting through Deerwater. So, there's ways to access the park that are already, standard ways to get into the park without having to bust through the fence here. Like I said, it might happen. So we're waiting to see.
Well, I have no more questions.
I have just one question, and that
Sure,
is that the area right now that is being graded?
No,
That's not Lakeside.
no,
so that-
nothing's happened in this space because they don't have approval yet.
Right, okay.
So
I
what's
just
being
wondered.
graded is shoreline phase 2C or 3A. I can't recall which, but
Okay,
and that has been granted because not that that's the purpose of this conversation, but just for your information, we granted them the approval to get that grading done before the winter so that would settle through the winter and compact, so that hopefully the next units going in there would have less issues with cracking and settling, because I know that the first phase of Shoreline had a bit of issue on a couple of units there. And so part of the changes we made was to require these guys to have enough time for the ground to settle so that we would hopefully minimize that going forward.
okay, and then Lakeside is going to be adjacent to the area that's currently being
Correct.
graded.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Closer
Lakeview, but
closer
yes.
towards
Oh, sorry.
Lakeview and closer.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be on the property closer to Park City from there,
Okay,
and moving in the direction of the Ross Creek entrance.
right, okay.
So I'd call that, sometimes we call that north, sometimes we call that east, but yeah,
Right.
that way.
Okay.
Carol,
thank
on
you.
the map, Deerwater Phase 1 and 2 is on the top. Deerwater Phase 3 is on the right. And Shoreline Phase 2 and 3-ish is on the bottom.
Okay,
So
And the
what you're
lake
seeing-
is
what you're seeing
on the left.
down here.
right.
So
All
what
right.
you're seeing disturbed is at the bottom of this map, Carol.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. As an aside, anytime you want to take a tour, we can mask up and I'll walk you through all of it at some point if you're up for it.
Okay. Thank you.
But, sometimes it helps to go out and
Right.
see it. Yeah. So, okay, so what we're looking for is a motion to approve.
Mayor, I can say one thing we need to add to the conditions.
Okay, Nate, sure.
I don't know if this is a public hearing or not, but if you look at
It's
lots,
not.
okay, 224 and 225, they're right below Deerwater's Phase 1.
Yeah.
At the planning commission meeting, there was several owners or people that were buying, maybe, well, two that were buying Deerwater's Phase 1 homes. And they brought up some issues, so I wouldn't and met with them, but those need to have a restriction, lots 224 and 225, that they'll be single story. We didn't want to block their views. And so that needs to be, I would like it put on the plat, but it also probably needs to be part of the approval process. Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
We've committed to do single stories on those two.
And Nate, while you're talking, did you solve or did you help, mitigate the problem on lot 104? On
Yes.
the view as well, is that correct? So you earn extra credit for that.
Well, thanks. Actually, we went and met with, there were 6 homeowners that I met with, and they were very, very nice. They were concerned about their views, as they should be, but there's 45 feet of difference from the road in front of Lakeview and the road in front of Deerwaters. And so the 45 feet, if we do single story, they won't have any obstruction. So, and that's something we worked out. And I told them I would, if it was fine with you guys, we could put that on the Mylar and make it part of the minutes or the approval. So.
Without objection.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Thomas,
That's
can you
great,
just,
Nate.
can you put it on your conditions of approval list so that we'll have that when it's time to sign the plat to make sure it's there?
That's exactly what I was going to do. And Nate, could you tell me what those lot numbers were one more time?
Yeah, 224 and 225.
Okay.
There are these two up here, Thomas, in this.
Yeah.
If you're seeing the picture where my mouse is.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for all your time too.
I'd also like to note for the council that the roads are at our 26-foot standard. Is that correct? Our new standard?
Yes. Nate?
Yeah.
So they'll be the first of our new standard road widths to go in,
Yes.
wider than anything else in town.
Almost anything else in town.
I will say
Well,
there is
one
another plan out there since the planning commission meeting. I'm not sure. We sent it to Ryan, but we've added parking in G, and I can't read it. Even with my glasses, I can't read it. It might be B, where it says phase 2.
It's B and G, that's right.
B and G. We've added, one of the big concerns that they said through the whole town is there's not enough visitor parking or things like that. And so we said we'd put some parking in there, and the plan's been sent in, but it's not showing on this. And so I don't know how many we've done, but we are putting parking in there. I did see that was part of the conditions, but it said possibly, and we are definitely doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nate.
So Mayor, do you need a motion? Is that what we're waiting on?
Yeah, I'm just working on the way I want to phrase it, Jerry, so just give me
Okay.
a sec.
All right.
Sorry. So a motion to approve the Lakeview subdivision with the requirement that all of the conditions cited by both engineering and planning be addressed prior to pulling permits.
Prior to pulling permits or prior to recordation?
Well, I don't think you can I don't know. I guess we can say prior to recording, but I think some of those conditions are going to come after. So I got to go back and look,
Okay.
but
Yeah, that may be true of the sewer modifications that's not going to,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so some of each, but yeah, but basically have to be that all of the conditions cited by engineering and planning, are resolved.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second, Ralph. Thank you. Okay. Carol,
Yes.
thank you. Chris,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
and Ralph.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Lakeview is on a path to move forward. Congratulations, Nate.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I am going to go back to the agenda. I can figure out where I put it. I get so many windows open. All right, where's the Zoom? Share screen. Town council. I think it's that one. No, it's not that one. Sorry. Not that one. It's the PDF. There it is. Share screen. Okay. Okay. So the next one is approval to engage JSSD for sewer cleaning and hideout. So as you know, I have been working with JSSD to come up with a operating and maintenance agreement for our water and sewer system with them. We'd gone back and forth as council on that a number of times. Given the current lack of clarity around the service provisions for a potential annexation in Summit, JSSD has requested that we wait until that's resolved before finalizing a long-term contract. In the meantime, we've got work that needs to be done. Right, we got to have, our sewer modeling has confirmed that we've got some work to do. So we need to spend approximately $20,000 of the enterprise fund to flush and scope 13,200 feet of our sewer lines. This is part of normal maintenance. It should have been ongoing historically for some time. As you guys know, that hadn't been happening around Hideout until this administration. We did some flushing and scoping last year on Chris's side of Hideout. This is intended to go all the way from Soaring Hawk all the way down through Shoreline Phase 1 and Silver Sky, where we had a recent issue with some with piping there. So we have 2 quotes on that. One is from an outside company who would have to mobilize to come in. That's from a company called Val Cotter and Sons. The second is from JSSD. The quotes are within $1,000 of each other. And I am recommending that we work with JSSD on this particular project. They're the nearby folks. They're managing the upstream or downstream side of the system for us. And we want to continue to build a partnership with them. So that's what I can tell you on that. Because it's above $10,000, I need you guys to allow me to make that commitment and get the job done. There are funds. The enterprise fund has plenty of money in there to accommodate this spend. In fact, this is significantly less than we had budgeted for work with JSSD this year. So so we're okay from a budget perspective to handle the cost of doing this.
So Mayor, this is Chris. Did you get a written quote from JSSD?
Yeah, I have written quotes from both, Chris.
That's not in our packet.
No, they're just 13,200 feet of pipe at $1.54 per foot or whatever. So there's nothing really to put in there, and
That's it. There's no
same
additional
thing.
labor or anything.
That covers encompasses the entire project. Same from Val Cotter
Okay.
at a slightly different price. So there's no
So the scope of work is
the engineering guy. The engineering guys sent out a package that showed the pipelines. I can probably dig that out from what's her name? That's one of Ryan's people that got sent to them, and they came back and said, okay, here's the price. So she marked up the sewer drawing, the lines, highlighted them, and they came back and said, here's our price.
in which bid was higher?
JSSD is slightly higher.
Okay. I understand your reasons for wanting to choose them.
Yeah.
What's the per square foot for each, for JSSD and for the Val Cotter company?
Hang on a second, Chris. Give me a sec. I gotta pop over here. Sorry, wrong mail. I'm going to stop sharing so I don't do something I don't want to do by accident. So give me a minute. Because I'm trying not to show my entire screen. Abby, where's your note, Abby? I had it open earlier. I don't know what I did with it. I feel bad about that. I thought here it is. Here we go. No, that's not it. 13, no. Yeah, I found it 2 seconds last time. Now I'm struggling. It's $1.49 per foot versus $1.58 per foot, I believe. 57 per foot.
All right, thanks for digging that up.
And Mayor, does the number of feet change over time? Meaning, will
Ralph.
next-
Yeah, but this is not, this is, it doesn't, you don't do everything every year. Our goal is to, get the entire system, once we have the mapping done, and put it on a 5-year cycle and do 20% a year on a routine basis. So, it's going to take a little time to do that, because I don't know that we would do this much pipe as part of that 20%. I think 20% would probably not be this much pipe, but because we've had some issues and because it hasn't been done, I'm kind of pushing it forward a little bit, and then we'll try and space it out based on what the sewer model tells us we should be doing, as far as where the higher concern areas are. So, but this whole section won't have to be redone next year. In fact, we would move to another part of town.
And likely that becomes part of the routine ongoing maintenance that we hope to contract out
Right.
longer term.
Exactly.
All the more reason, if JSSD is our target future partner, that we give them the work here.
Well, I mean, the besides their intimate knowledge of the system, their proximity is a great advantage for the town. We had talked in prior meetings about outside people doing this, and there's a whole mobilization effort to do that, and it tends to be job and project based kind of activity versus ongoing. So, quick response is harder when you're dealing with the more remote service providers. So, coming up from down the valley is, significant travel time. And if you've got an issue going on, when you're talking about like a water leak, I'd rather be 15 minutes away than an hour and 15 minutes away. Anyway, so that's what I would like to do. And I would like your consent to, I guess it's a motion to authorize the mayor to allocate the funds for cleaning 13,200 feet of sewers, cleaning and scoping 13,200 feet of sewer line.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Bob.
Hey, Phil, I think I'm going to have to recuse myself from this. I'm going to abstain from voting also due to a work conflict. I will be logging off shortly.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. I understand. Ralph.
Yes.
Thank you. Carol.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all. Necessary work, and it's going to make a difference. And we're hopefully getting it on the schedule fast enough that we'll get it all done before the weather comes. Okay. Item 6. Consideration of a resolution for the acquisition of snow removal equipment and debt allocation. So there's a ton of material in here. We working with Zion's bank on financing. We got two offers from the bank for, this is for a skid steer. Skid steer is the unit that we've been leasing annually for 4 or 5 months to put the snow thrower on and give Kent and the team, the ability to blow back snow when beyond the edges of the curb to make room and cut the walls back so we can actually have the full street width to work with in the winter when we have heavy snow. The cost of that equipment is $45,000. We had two bids. One is we had them do it on a 3-year schedule and one on a 5-year. So the 3-year schedule is here with a $15,000 a year spend, but obviously, results in less interest. The second one is a 5-year schedule, which takes it down to about $9,000 a year annually.
What were we paying to lease the equipment for?
We were paying roughly $6,000 a month. So this,
but only
this is a
for
win.
4 months.
4 to 5 months, which is still more than $9,000 a year. Because this is $9,000 a year, not a month. Secondly, Jan informed me that we just paid off one of the trucks, which we budgeted payments for the entire year. And so we are actually in pretty good shape on transportation spend. So we had budgeted about $22,000 or something for the skid steer this year in the lease basis, and we also had car payments or truck payments allocated through the entire year, which are no longer required because we paid it off.
Is this
So
a new piece of equipment or a used piece of equipment?
This is going to be a new piece of equipment.
And it
Town
has
needs this.
it has an expected lifespan of?
Typically, these things will run 10 years.
Okay.
They tend to do it on hours versus years, because it's all based on usage. But I mean, this is like a forklift. You ought to get 10 years out of it without getting into a high maintenance cost cycle.
And is there
this
any
unit?
I'm sorry, maybe I'm asking questions before you've laid your case out. So I'll wait and you tell me when.
This unit has other uses. It has other attachments. It's going to allow us to move dirt around, use it. It can be used as a kind of a forklift. You can get a forklift attachment. You can get a bucket. You can do a number of things that makes it suitable for all season use.
Do you know the make and model? Do you know the make and model of the skid steer that you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. We certainly do. It's in the package, but
it is.
We got a couple quotes as well. Jan can address that. I will eventually find it. This is all Jan can also explain the Zions thing better. So if you wouldn't mind, Jan, while I'm looking for the actual info on the skid steer. If you don't mind coming off mute, if you're talk a little bit about what you worked on with Mark on this. We're not hearing you, Jan. Jan, you there? It's a Kubota.
We can't hear you, Jan.
I just text her letting her know we can't.
Oh.
See if we
She can probably hear us, but
I think so.
Mhm.
What does it say with block header?
yeah,
Is that the attachment that we need for the snow removal thing?
exactly. Exactly. Because the town owns the snow thrower attachment.
Okay, so you just need the connecting piece.
Right, that, and it will need a cable, which is relatively small money.
And does this get
$200.
stored outdoors? How does it get protected over there?
It can sit, we have a maintenance building now, where it would sit, but it can also, it's designed for outdoor use, Ralph, like any of this outdoor heavy equipment. So it could sit outside if needed.
Is this a closed heated cab for those snow removal people?
It is a closed cab, yes, so that they won't be, we've had the ones we've leased, depending on this, which season, we've actually leased an open cab one year, and the poor guys were wearing every pair of Carhartts they had. So Jan, I don't know what's going on. Maybe you can call on the phone.
I think
Since
she's
you're-
logged off and she's logging
She's in the
back.
waiting room now.
She's in the waiting room. All right. Alicia, can you let Jan in and let her try again?
She's in.
And can you give her co-host? There you go, Jan. I think you're now able to try again.
Mm-mm.
Go on.
Talking, can't hear.
Still no bueno.
Apparently her microphone is not working. It seemed to be earlier in the day, but it doesn't seem to be now.
Do we have the budget to do the 3-year plan?
She's nodding yes. So if we wanted to go for 3 years and get it done more quickly, we could certainly do that.
So, do we have cash to pay for it? Do we have to go through a financing model?
I don't think it's up. Jan, I'm not really good at lip reading, but I'm trying. But it is. I think given that A, interest rates are very low, and B, it's a kind of it's an uncertain year. I would prefer to not tie up $45,000 in cash, and then find ourselves needing it later in the year for some reason.
What is the interest rate that on the 3-year?
A little over 2%.
Looked like it was 2.7.
2.7. I'm trying to remember which one was which.
I mean, anything below 3 is pretty darn good right now. Probably not going to get better interest rates. And maybe stretch it. But what's the difference in cost between the 3 and 5 year? What's our savings, I guess? Does that show? Look like it was about 3,900 for
Yeah,
5
sorry,
years.
Ralph, I'm getting
Yeah, there you go.
This is 2.7% on three years, taking you to for 49,285 on the 5-year model. Where is that, the 5-year model?
I think that was
Maybe
the
the
5 year.
sorry, no, the 3-year. 3 years, 47,873. So it's a few $1,000s of savings there.
And the interest goes down to 255.
Yeah.
At the 3-year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a
Jan,
huge,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm not a huge fan of debt, so my preference would be if we can afford the shorter period, I'd rather us lean that way. Is Jan maybe trying to
fine with
call
that.
in? There's a phone number in the
Right.
waiting room.
She is trying to call.
Oh. All right.
Can you hear me?
I don't know. She may be. Now we
Yes.
can. There you are.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's pretty wild. I couldn't unmute. You got the conversation just fine. We have favorable interest rates right now. We have budget. It just seems like we should go for a 3-year lease on this. As the mayor indicated, we paid off a truck that we use for streets, and we anticipated this, and we anticipated just moving right into leasing equipment. So I think we should just go ahead. And first, also, I want to give a public thank you to our Public Works. They were excellent at getting the data and getting it in time, and I'm happy we don't have snow on Sunday. It's always, you know, we get down to the wire on getting this equipment for them, and they were ready to hand shovels to the town council if we had a snowstorm before we got the equipment. And anyway,
You'd have some more seats on the council open if that happened.
Right, right. This, you know, the interest rates right now are great, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just move right into this and get them the equipment that they have found for us. And they got a great rate. Kent found equipment at, you know, close to $5,000 less than what was bid last year, and I think we should approve this.
I want to be clear, this is a purchase, not a 3-year lease, right? We own the equipment
Yes.
for 3 years?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it will have like
This is
a
a-
very small buyout, like a $1 buyout or something.
And it looks like the difference per year between the 3 and 5 is about $6,000, Jan. So
Correct.
if you add that up from year to year, that's, you know, by 3 years, we're just kicking in $6,000 more per year. So that's $18,000, but then we own it in 3 years. Makes sense.
Right. Yes.
So, any other questions?
Nope.
Then what I'm looking for. Holly, is this actually, I guess this is a resolution. Do we have resolution language?
Yes, we do. It should have gone in the packet. Alicia, I know
Okay.
Alicia had something in there. It's, yeah.
I have it on my. I
I'm
have
sorry.
the document.
Alicia, is it after all this stuff?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I think
It's on page 44, Bill.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alicia.
Yes. Sorry, I got lost in there too.
Okay,
Here you go.
There it is.
there we go. A resolution approving the form of the lease purchase agreement with Zions Bank Corp. Authorizing execution and delivery thereof, the town. Lease of the property is for valid public purpose. Governing body has reviewed the form of the lease purchase agreement and found the terms and conditions acceptable. And there are no legal bidding requirements, applicable law to arrange for the leasing of such property on the lease purchase agreement. Or governing body has taken the steps to comply with the same. We have, it's not a bidding, it's that we've got pricing from more than one source.
Hey, Phil,
Be it
before we move,
resolved. Yeah,
sorry, are you going to continue reading? And then after that, I have a question.
okay.
Okay.
Be it resolved by the governing body, the town of Hideout as follows: the terms of said lease purchase are in the best interest of the lessee, i.e. the town, for leasing equipment and property described within. The appropriate officers and officials of the lessee are hereby authorized and directed to execute. That would be me. In substantially the form presented to this meeting and related documents, certificates necessary for the consummation of the transactions. The officers and officials may make such changes to the lease purchase agreement and related documents and certificates as the officers and officials deem necessary or desirable. So in other words, if there's any minor tweaks, not substantial in changing anything, we're empowered to change the language. And you all approve that the officers official of the governing body are hereby authorized and directed to fulfill all the obligations. So that's, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, this is a question for Polly. Polly, you know, I don't just serve on the council. I have a full-time job, and I actually work for Zions Bank Corporation. So is there any kind of disclosure I should be making, or abstaining from voting, or what's your advice?
Do you work in this part of Zions?
No, I work in IT, so not in this part.
Okay, so thank you for disclosing. And since you have no financial interest in this contract being awarded, you can vote if you want.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more question as well. So I assume when you were renting the equipment, if it needed a new tire or an oil change or some regular maintenance, the owner of the equipment did that. We didn't. So I'm wondering if we've factored in total cost of ownership to this as well, and what that real yearly number is more closely. You know, or have we budgeted for it? Do we understand?
We have, again, Jerry, it's use dependent, but you know, I spent most of my career in this space. First 5 years is very low. First year is warranty, except for, you know, like a car, tires and windshield wipers. You know, other than you know, misuse of the equipment. So if these guys drive it off a cliff and wreck it, then, you know, it's a different issue. We will have to put insurance on this. There is a cost of that, but we also have that we didn't do it when we leased it, but it's still going to be significantly less than what we were paying on the lease payments. And then it goes up over time. It's not quite a straight line, but it's sort of a curve. You get probably the first 5 years, your operating costs are very low. Then the curve starts to climb, and as you approach, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you're starting to see, you know, starting to see where you begin to have justification for considering replacement.
Okay, thank you.
The only other downside of leasing or buying is, you can't take advantage of future innovation if you're leasing something in an improved state, but this seems like a no-brainer to me.
This is a pretty standard piece of equipment, Ralph, and in this day and age, they're all designed with the ability to put. They're like the Ryobi One stuff. You can take the basic unit and bolt all kinds of stuff on. So other than self-driving kind of technologies, I think we're pretty safe in getting a useful life out of this piece of equipment for the next 8 to 10 years easily.
It'd be an interesting thing, a Roomba for snow removal.
Unless
Guys would love
snowing.
it. I don't know. I mean, they would love not working all night. I don't know if they'd be thrilled to lose the overtime. But.
Or unless it stops snowing here.
Well, again, this has multiple uses, Ralph. We don't have to put the snow thrower on there. We can move dirt and cut trails, and it's a narrow device. It would actually fit on many of the trails. So
Only kidding. It's not likely to happen.
It has value beyond snow removal, although this is the primary driver. So again, I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution 2020-TBD as
I
shown
so
on the
move.
screen tonight. Is that you, Carol?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jerry. Ralph?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Bob, are you still on? I don't see him. He said he had to drop off for work, so. But we don't need that. So he's not available. Jerry?
Yes.
Thank you. And Carol?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. The resolution is approved. Thank you. Okay, that's Kent's sleeping easier. Okay, number 7. So this is I set this up as a discussion tonight because of prior discussion with the Planning Commission and prior discussion with this group that that there is energy. That this is a big enough change that we want to do some strong communicating across the town before we would actually pass this. So we're going to look at this tonight, and assuming that we all are supportive of the change, then we would take it to make sure we get a newsletter out to all of the constituents in town, making sure they're aware of this and provide an opportunity for public input about this going forward. So we're not voting on this tonight. At least that's my recommendation. We're going to look at it and get our thoughts and agree and decide if we're going to move it forward to the point where we want to share it more broadly with the community and get input, or if we want to send it back for adjustment.
And Mayor, if I may, because I was Planning Commission chair when this went through, and there were really 2 aspects to it. One was the on-street parking piece of it. The other was, the genesis behind this is that we have very narrow streets, and that's a public safety hazard. We had the Wasatch Fire District come out and do a demonstration with the council. We did a ride through the town to demonstrate how our narrow streets are problematic. So, the on-street parking was one mitigation to that. And the other was an attempt to ensure that we don't have any more narrow streets built in the town. Now we have town code now that mandates that, but we have developments that have been approved that don't have that standard, and that those roads haven't been laid yet. So we wanted to provide some provisions in this that allowed us to mandate those wider roads. But we had a different town attorney at the time, and there was some questions about whether we could legally do that. And so we were going to have a committee that would look at that feature of this ordinance. The first one, no parking, yes, we need to have a community discussion. We need to notify the community. But the second piece to me is just as important, to make sure we don't continue with the sins of the past with these narrow roads. And because the town has had some other priorities, we haven't had a chance to circle back with our new town attorney and discuss how do we ensure that we don't pave any more 18, 16, 20-foot roads in the town. So that work still needs to be done, in my opinion.
I agree completely, Jerry. That's, it's a matter of countervailing public interest that we try and shift as much of that as we can. And that, potentially means that we're going to have to, we may have to accommodate that, we may have to give up some setback. Because I don't think we can, if we address that, and I don't think there's any way that what's been approved can get built if you require the same setbacks and so forth and then widen the roads. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of pushback.
Yeah, that's a double whammy then, because those setbacks are already they're way under what our new setbacks are. So
yeah, this is a really tough thing that we're dealing with. So so that's the purpose of tonight, guys, is for us this is the first time I think we've had as a town council to talk about this. I know the planning commission worked on this for a while. We've talked a little bit about it in the general level, but this is the first draft of resolution to go after it. So whereas the fire district sent a letter of concern, I'll look up the date, expressing when they told us what they needed. A reference of the fire code that the minimum road standards, exclusive of shoulders, and the letter that vehicles parked on the roads which are below the prescribed width can adversely impact vehicle access. And in fact, we know that because we had the fire department come up and set up some of that equipment for us, which was very nice of them. And the fire marshal came and talked to us about what the road width needs are.
As well as all of the vehicles that show up for an emergency event. It's not just
not just fire. No, it's ambulance. It's ambulance.
It's police. It's multiple police cruisers. Sometimes the fire chief shows up. I mean, there could be 6 vehicles that respond,
or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas the town council finds that emergency vehicle access, fire and medical, and effective unblocked evacuation routes will promote health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the town and the public in general. And the town adopted an ordinance in 2019, which provided for review of subdivision plats and plans by the fire district, and the recitals and findings of which dealing with the danger of wildfire matters are incorporated for reference. And the town find that the future minimum road width as enumerated by the district is prudent for the safety of the town, and that preventing parked vehicles on public streets is one way to enhance the public safety by providing enhanced access, ingress, egress during emergency situations, included enhanced mobility for emergency vehicles. And whereas the town council finds effective flow for garbage, snow removal, delivery services is necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the town residents, and public safety is of an utmost concern to the town council. And where the town has published notice as required by law of its intent to amend the provisions of the town code, now therefore be it ordained by the town council of Hideout the above recitals are incorporated, that this, any provisions of the town codes previously adopted are inconsistent with this. They're repealed to allow this to be the case. And these are the parking restrictions. Okay, modification to the code, section 1, item 1, section 7, 16020. Parking not to obstruct traffic or emergency services. No person shall park any vehicle upon a street other than an alley. I don't know why we have that in there, but maybe you can address that, Jerry. In such a manner that under conditions as to leave the roadway available less than 26 feet of width. For the roadway pavement free for, leave available less than 26 feet of the width of the roadway pavement for free movement of the vehicular traffic or emergency services.
Yeah, again, this is an amendment, so I think the only thing that changed here was the 26 feet. So it was amended to widen that.
Okay. And then we added, where necessary to comply with the section above, builders, developers are required to provide off-street parking for all construction-related vehicles. Under no circumstances shall these vehicles be permitted to park in such a way to violate section above. And adding emergency services access. It shall be, in addition to the general parking regulations, the following regulations to apply to parking on public roadways within the town in order to facilitate emergency services access. Unlawful to park or leave unattended any vehicle in a roundabout, cul-de-sac, or dead end. Unlawful to park vehicles within 30 feet of an intersection or blind curve. And employees of the town are hereby authorized to remove or have removed any vehicle found on the street in violation of this section. Any person who parks, leaves, or deposits any vehicle or other obstruction shall be liable for all removal and impoundment costs, including town administrative costs. The town shall not be responsible for injury or damage claims. We're also amending a section to read that on-street parking is not prohibited. We are authorized to erect signs indicating no parking upon any street where the width of a roadway is less than 32 feet or upon one side of a street as indicated by such signs when the width of the roadway exceeds 32 feet. When signs prohibiting parking are erected upon streets as authorized herein, no person shall park a vehicle upon the street in any violation, upon any such street in violation of any such sign.
And 32 feet is the magic number there that allows a car to park on the street and still allow the 26 feet passage.
Right. Yeah. So you have 6 feet of width across the front of a car.
Yep.
Section within 716 are amended because the prior code said chief of police and we're changing that to town. We're amending section 716 to be able to apply nuisance code for anybody parking on public street continuously for 48 hours or in excess to the is prohibited and declared to be a nuisance and detrimental to the safe and proper regulation of traffic. Parking and leaving any vehicle, including heavy machinery, trailers within the public right of way for 48 hours is also prohibited, considered to be a nuisance, as is the storage of construction materials, supplies, waste, or dumpsters within the public right of way. Unless otherwise specified, vehicle in this section means any automobile, truck, motorcycle, trailer, backhoe, loader, or other piece of construction machinery, and every other means of conveyance of persons or cargo included within the scope of the Utah Vehicle Code. So basically, if it has wheels and goes on the road, it's in scope. Wheels or tracks, to be fair. Let's make sure it's all in there. And then we have an amendment to the enforcement procedures so that we can ensure that we can enforce this and have the things done that we want to do as far as taking cars away, towing, fining, etc.
B is
minimum
probably no longer necessary because we've now codified that at the time that
Yeah.
this ordinance was done, that wasn't law yet. So
we could modify this to just
you could remove B at this point because it's no longer
could remove
necessary.
B. Yeah. Okay. Parking. Public interest. The town council formally finds on the record that a compelling countervailing public interest pertaining to emergency vehicle access and emergency ingress and egress would be jeopardized by continuing to allow parking on public streets in violation of the provisions of this ordinance, and by not adopting the minimum road standard set within. This finding is made pursuant to Utah Code 10-9A-5091A2. It's the same exists at the date of this ordinance. The intent of this ordinance is that the provisions and requirements hereof shall hereby apply to all roads and properties within the town, regardless of any applicable recorded development agreement or other prior vested rights. So that's where we're going to need some help.
Yep.
Because I'm not sure that we can enforce that.
Yep.
So
That was
Polly, there's some homework
Dan's concern.
So Polly, there's some homework for you when we get through with all the other things that we're going to have meetings on for the next 5 nights. So we could potentially pull C as well if we want to get moving on just the parking side of it, and then come back and address C at a future time. The streets and segments identified below as no parking streets are hereby designated no parking areas that can be posted with these signages as example below. As you can see, we have, other than Bellevue Way, Deer Mountain Valley, Golden Eagle Road, potentially, it's very close.
Yeah, and
Then
again,
we
that
start to get
32 feet is the magic number there to allow on-street parking. So if the road is less than 32 feet, it would be posted as no parking.
Right.
And that's
So
a tough pill to swallow.
That's a very tough pill to swallow, especially during daytime use. So we got, I'm sure we're going to get some comment on that.
I think there's only one road that qualifies for parking, and that's the Jordan L, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's the Ross Creek entrance and
Ross
Creek entrance.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And we have that signed as no parking.
Yes, yeah. Because the park really doesn't want people parking there and walking in, because that would be in violation of the fee stuff. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got nowhere to park.
Yeah.
So this creates, this is going to create a fair bit of noise. Clearly, we'll need to think about, the 26-foot roads with, potentially for short-term parking, we might be willing to think about that. As long as it's one side and transient, that's what the public works guys are enforcing today. In the construction sites down by near where I live, for example, and the other ones as well. But these roads that 17 and 18, just no way.
And most of Rustler's 16. Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah. So that's why we're thinking this is going to need a fair bit of communication and discussion, and we're going to get a lot of noise on this.
Yeah, in some places, driveways are, their driveways are
sufficient. Yeah.
Are sufficient for off-street, but there's other places like within Overlook Village, where you got shared driveways. You really can't park on the driveway without blocking in your neighbor, and that's no good either. So there's some challenges.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we've been talking about this for some months now. this is what is going to happen if we follow through with our convictions. And I think we want to make sure that we were all got our head around this before we start getting, before we start reaching out to the community and making sure they begin the education process on why we're doing this.
Hey, this is Chris. This is essentially will be an entirely no parking town. Can't park anywhere. How can we reconcile that?
Other
with-
than the parking pads, that there are some overflow parking pads.
Let me finish my thought here. How do we reconcile that with, we have got quite a bit of construction going on still. There is transient parking every day. Yeah, the parking at construction sites is a big pain in the butt all the time, it seems like. Because like on my street, for example, we had 2 different houses going up. They were on opposite sides of the street of each other. And the, we had some inconsistent enforcement and certainly not a good understanding of the rules of everybody has to park on the same side. If we go from, the relative free-for-all that it is now to this, which is completely locked down and there's no parking on any street in the entire town, that to me is that's a huge shift that I can't get my head around. Even though I do understand the reasons, yes, emergency services, you got to get fire trucks down the road, etc. We're talking about day in, day out, from hour to hour, not allowing parking anywhere. We've got to be able to strike a balance between, always ready for a fire truck to come down the road, no matter what, with, hey, we've got to function as a growing community with all this construction going on. And not to mention, a bunch of social people who are very social. They have parties, people drive over, park in front of their house, are eating dinner. Well, back in the old days, someday we'll get back to it, but we can't go to a complete, utter swing in the other direction. We've got to find some balance here.
Chris, I agree with you completely. I think that, we're going to have to allow one-sided parking on the 26-foot roads and, be more conscientious on the real skinny roads.
I think that one of the things that we're going to have to do is allow limited parking. Maybe put a time limit on it. I know that there's not going to be anybody that's going to go around and mark tires, that kind of thing, to say, oh, you're over your limit. But it's got to be a cooperative effort. I mean, people have to be able to socialize, to have people over, and to be able to park. And I think, I don't know how you can regulate it, but you're going to have to allow some kind of parking for visitors, for guests. I just, you're going to get just a lot of blowback from our residents.
I will say the Planning Commission was not unanimous on recommending this for the very reasons we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough pill to swallow, and I agree there's got to be some middle ground that we find. I don't know where we draw that line yet, or what that compromise looks like, and still maintains the, as the mayor said, our convictions about public safety.
This was clearly the most contentious discussion, that one of the most contentious discussions we had at the planning board, because some people just don't have, and like Carol, you're saying, it's like, hey, you want to have some function where you have some people over. Have we exhausted our ideas? I mean, for one thing, to Chris, your point, like, come up with something else. maybe maybe some additional parking that the town engineers, so to speak, in each development that provides some, you know, we were also talking about potentially using the spaces around City Hall. Maybe you'd have to, you know, shuffle back some people. Not very convenient, but let's come up with 3 or 4 creative solutions to something like this, because I agree. I mean, just, you know, just carte blanche, eliminating all parking does not make sense. I mean, I hate to say it, if this gets socialized, you're going to have another, you know, bunch of people like throwing tomatoes at us here. And rightly so. It just, you know, let's come. I don't think we've exhausted the creative solutions. I don't know, Jerry, you know, we went through 2 or 3 sessions on this. But I don't think we've exhausted potentially. There, some of the concern was, well, if we did that, it's going to cost the town money. Well, you know, that's what you have a town for, you know, so.
I'm just going to give an example. Last January, I was supposed to have a board meeting at my house that was 25 to 30 people. And so I had told the members of the board that they could park at the town hall and that we'd work out a shuttle system. I mean, I really tried to comply with the no parking. It was winter time and there was the potential for snow. And my group said, no, we're not going to allow ourselves to be shuttled. That's ridiculous. And so what happened was somebody else volunteered their home where there was parking. And, you know, so I really did try to comply with the no parking with a group of people. And, you know, they were the ones who said, no, this isn't going to work. You know, just so you know that it was tried. So.
Yeah, I'd like to add, I don't think we have control over the spaces at the town hall.
I
That's
know.
We
private
don't.
property. So
I was going to say that, Chris. No, we have about four or five spaces that are on the town's property. The rest are not.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well,
So see, Carol,
yeah, it was a good thing it
You're
didn't work.
illegal
good thing
anyway.
it didn't work. Yeah, no, this is going to require some thought. I mean, I don't want to belabor it tonight, but you know, why don't we try to find a compromise for now? Maybe parking only on one side of the street with signs up and enforcement. You know, something like that for a while and ease our way into something like this, which, by the way, is never going to fly.
Yeah.
How about I will take I'll take a piece of the puzzle here and sit down with Ryan, the town engineer, and talk about this with him and see if, from his experience, you know, what pieces of this he thinks might make sense. You know, we have some sections of town that are that because of the way the roads are, I think we would have to say we really would want to have no parking because there's no way to get up on the curb on the other side because they're in, you know, they're trapped between rock walls. So where there was other places where if you had a car on one side, if they needed to go up over the curb, emergency equipment could do that. That kind of
Line
stuff.
curves
So
and intersections are problematic too. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take a piece of that puzzle and work with Ryan on that. See if we can come back with some suggestions for you at a future meeting. But I think it's also great that you all do some thinking about this, as we just talked about tonight, and send your comments, please. I'll happily collect them. I'll be willing to be point person on collecting those comments, or maybe I'll sign Tony to do that. I don't know. But yeah, if you've got, as you think about this, I mean, now that we've planted the seed in a more alarming way, you can do some thinking about it, and we'll come back. We'll move it to, you know, a follow-up discussion, and I don't know if we'll have something in 2 weeks, but we can certainly do it, you know, in the first meeting in November. Is that all right?
All right.
Work for you guys? All right.
Help me in any of those discussions with Ryan, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll let you report back to me so I can help incorporate them.
Sure. Thank you, Paul. So the next one is a very, it's a related problem, which is item 8. And I'm going to change the share just briefly. Give you a new share. If I can find what I'm looking for. Okay. Are you seeing?
We're still seeing the
Are you
PDF
seeing-
right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
It's your
there we
email.
go. Now it's on.
You're seeing the Recyclops?
Yep.
Okay. So we aggressively pursued and supported the aggressive pursuit of getting a recycling service into Hideout. And we have something on the order of 50 residents or so, 50 homes or so that are actively using this this Recyclops firm. Their current process is that the residents put the recycle in plastic bags and place them on the curb on Thursday. So we have found, that either they're not sealing the bags well, and wildlife or wind get in and spread the trash. Even if they seal the bag, if there's food smells in there, wildlife's going to get through that plastic and do it. And 3, at street level, those bags in a snowstorm, they're just going to get plowed, and we're going to spread trash everywhere. So I'm a big fan of recycling. I do a lot of it myself, especially now that we're in the days of COVID and we're all using more delivery stuff than we ever have before. But it's the bag solution is not sustainable for the town. So I've spoken with the recycling company. They offer collection bins. They would charge either $20 to lease a bin, but then they would return if somebody moved out and ended the service, or they'll sell you the bin for $65 and that you could take it with you to another place. I think we have no choice but to put an ordinance together to require that all the recycle be in a storage bin for collection and not loosely packaged on the street. And I'd like your thoughts on that.
Well, as we talked about recycling in town, I'm opposed to requiring residents to pay for a service that they may or may not want. But I think in this case, if you're subscribing to the service, requiring them to comply with, this bin mandate, I think is reasonable. We're not forcing someone to pay for recycling service. We're saying if you choose to do so, you need to use a bin.
And I should have said, Jerry, that $20 comes back when they turn the bin in at the end. So it's not like they out $20. They're just allowing $20 of their money to be tied up in a zero interest check, zero
It's
interest
deposit,
account.
a $20 deposit. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So Mayor, how
Given
large,
the interest rates in the banks, it's about the same.
how large are these bins?
Right, that was my question.
They are. You may have seen. There's a few of them. Few of the residents have chosen those. You may have seen them. They're yellow. They're smaller than the Wasatch County trash bins, but still a good size. They're
They're upright bins then? They're not, like flat storage box kind of?
No, they're not. They're not pallet. Yeah, open crate type bins. They're upright containers with covers. So they're sort of small. They're smaller versions of the Wasatch County trash bin. They're yellow in color. They're similar to the blue ones that you will have seen in other places for sale in Home Depot or whatever. They're not Summit. When I lived in Summit, the recycle bin was the same size as the landfill bin, but these would be smaller,
So
but still a good enough size to manage most.
I might have missed, I had to step away. I might have missed this, but Have we communicated with the Recycle Ops company who then communicated with the subscribers about needing to seal
I
their
have.
bags?
Yeah, but that, again, Chris, sealing their bags
Animals.
doesn't do anything because animals get in there and they just tear them open.
So the reason they tear them open is because they're not rinsing their stuff off, right? So have we communicated properly?
I have communicated with communicated with Recycle Ops leadership. They have put a reminder out to their users. But again, this doesn't solve the winter issue. There's no
Okay,
way.
let me just say, I am a Recycle Ops subscriber. I put the plastic bags out every 2 weeks and my cardboard. And yeah, we have plenty of wildlife around. And yeah, it could be possible that birds could peck through it or whatever. But I didn't get any communication from Recycle Ops at all. So I don't know if the loop was closed to the actual subscribers. I would just like to see us make an attempt to communicate with people and see if they'll clean up their act. As far as the winter, I guess we're going to have to see what happens. It doesn't snow every other Thursday necessarily. Yeah, people might have to figure something out in the winter. I hesitate to require the containers without first going through all the intermediate steps to see if we can get people in line and say, look, if you can't get your act together, we're going to require, the council will most likely make you get these yellow containers, which, by the way, will limit the amount of recycling that you can put out. So I would like to see us do some actually execute some intermediate steps that make it to the subscribers before we go ahead and make this requirement.
And Chris,
Okay,
we're
I hear
also recyclers and started the process when it started. I don't know. I'm a fan of recycling. I don't know in this day and age how you couldn't do it. So I take a slightly different track than you would, Jerry, on this, because I think a good part of the US is also doing recycling. It's like denial of, especially with the amount of stuff that comes in boxes from places like the company I work for. So, it's just inevitable that we're just, we need to recycle as a community. It's just going to drag us down. And the cost isn't that great anyway. I mean, it's relatively insignificant. I don't know. We haven't had any problems with the problems with the bags and stuff, but I know our property in Park City, they have the 2 separate recycle bins, and so I don't see that as being an issue one way or another that much. And maybe Chris is right. Let's go through the intermediary steps to make sure that people clean out whatever they have. But I just think it's a shame that we don't have a more mandated program in an area like this. So I kind of at the opposite end, Jerry.
Well,
Anyway.
Ralph, if we were in Summit County, we would have 2 bins. We'd have a garbage
Exactly.
can and we have a recycle bin.
Yeah, because we still have
Right?
property over there.
So, but we're
and-
not. We're in
and-
Wasatch County. They don't have that service.
Well, that's because we're in Wasatch County, Chris. They're not very, are they very forward thinkers in certain cases? Maybe not, so.
To be fair, they do have that service, although it's an extra add-on, but it is available for curbside in Wasatch as well. With the research that the team did when they were exploring, recommended these guys over Wasatch because they were more disciplined about actually making sure these recycle streams ended up in the recycle and not in the landfill. But
Well, I agree with you, Chris. Take a couple of interim steps at least to understand whether we can correct the problem without going to the bins. But I also think, at some point I don't know if Mayor, you've looked at the costs of, regular recycling across the town, so to speak, or I know Kurt was involved in some of that
Yeah,
project.
we did, and we I think the decision at the time was not to require 100% participation. That was the council view at the time. We can certainly revisit that, but that was the council view at the time. But I did look at what it would take for this to be done, and I don't consider $20 for a deposit that they get back to be a significant hurdle for the vast majority of our residents. I
And
think
can we put that bin
I hear
in
what
the
you're
driveway? I mean, so we're not in the street when the plowing takes place if there is snowing. I mean, there must be a workaround there.
well, I mean, at least if there's a bin, it's typically, we don't have enough snow typically to cover the bins like of these sizes. So the drivers can at least see them on the Thursday on trash day. And the guys, do their best to try and work around them when they're out. But they're not going to see, bags at street level with a bit of snow on them. They're going to look
You're
like
absolutely
more
right.
snow to them.
Yep.
So that's my concern on that particular, on item 3 there. So I hear 2 of you saying do some more communication with recycle ops and make sure they're talking to people. Jerry's more of Jerry's saying, I don't see why we wouldn't suggest going to cans. And Carol, I haven't heard from you.
Well, I lived, prior to moving here, I lived in Summit County and I had a recycle bin. And, I just got used to it. So you put your recycle in the bin and you put your you put your garbage in the garbage bin. And I just think that's the way it's going in our world, with environmental things. So I'm in favor of, I really do think we should require people to have recycling.
So,
Okay, but that the question tonight is if you are recycling using this service, how do you feel about requiring them to move to a bin versus leaving them in the plastic bags?
I think they should get a bin.
Thank you.
and to be clear, I'm not opposed to the intermediate step of trying to get better compliance. I don't know how that solves number 3 though. So I tend to agree that requiring a bin is probably our endpoint. So if you subscribe to the service, you need to do the bin as well. I think that ultimately is where we're going to wind up, even if we take that intermediate step.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, if you put out a bag that is full of, even sealed up, and you put out a bag that's full of the soft plastics, so, the air pillows collapsed and stuff like that, and we get wind, it's gone. It's, your trash may have not moved because you got some heavy stuff in it, but you put out some lightweight plastic in that sack and we get a good wind up, it's out of here.
And you can't wrench your stuff well enough to that animals aren't going to find it anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's almost impossible.
Hey, Alicia, Chris is in the waiting room. If you want to let her in, I don't know what happened with her, but thanks. So,
and if we were having a conversation about, recycling mandates, I'd want to have a further conversation, but I don't think that's on the table at this point.
yeah, we can add it as something we want to talk about. That's fine. We can go back and revisit that. That's not an issue, but I feel pretty strongly that the bin is the right answer. I'm happy to go back to Recycle Ops and ask them to reach out to residents and ask them to do that. But we're just setting ourselves up for a mess, guys. I really think we just need to bite the bullet and inform people that for the safety of the drivers, for the health of the community, and not having rubbish all over the place, et cetera, as we get into winter season, I don't see any other solution but to require the bins.
So question about implementation. Does it require an ordinance, or do we just tell Recyclops that the bag option is not, you can't continue to offer that within Hideout?
I'd have to ask our Polly
Yeah.
for advice on that.
I don't think you need to, no, just ask them to, because your garbage, I assume, uses bins, right?
Mhm.
Yep, it does.
Yeah, you don't need an ordinance. I mean, what I see often are the ordinances that say you have to bring your bins in within, 12 hours of
Yeah.
pickup, that kind of thing. But you don't need
We
an
have
ordinance.
that.
Yeah, just have the provider not allow it anymore.
So we basically would tell the provider that for them to operate in Hideout, they can no longer offer the bag option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
All
let
right,
the
well,
raccoons.
unfortunately, we have a split. Sounds like we have a split here.
Now, I'll go along. I think you're right. I don't think we can solve 3 in what we heard so far and what I was thinking as well. I just, because and now that you're clearing my mind up about this and looking out on the street when we recycle, it's just too low for the snow movers to, check, they'll just be buried. So you're absolutely right. We need something of, call it more official, so to speak. And if that's a bin, that's a bin. And that's what most of the recycling world uses. So let's go that route. So I think you're more in favor of that than not.
And fine, and I'm thank you for that. But what I would suggest to Cyclops then is that that we let the residents know they have until the 1st of December.
Before the snow flies, that's a good, or before significant snow flies. That's a
Yeah,
good
right.
date.
I mean,
Yeah.
we'll try and deal with it, but I'd say, there's a transition period, but basically tell your users that they need to get signed up and that you'll no longer collect bags after, Thanksgiving or whatever. Okay. Thank you.
Where am I? There.
Okay, number 9, pay the bills. That would be a good thing to do. I think we highly recommend paying the bills so we can keep operating. So let's look at that. For some reason, my links aren't working tonight, so I apologize that I'm scrolling through this thing. But the hyperlinks that normally work in our Municode system are not behaving properly tonight. So I know Alicia's looking into it, but. So here's the general town expenses. Jan, I don't know if you she just left the room.
Mhm.
So I saw her walk out.
Can you hear me?
Oh, she's
Hello?
There you are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got dual going on, my cell phone for the voice and then my computer for video. So bills to be paid, we don't have anything extraordinary this month. We're buying salt from a new company, Saltworks, rather than Francis City. TO bills have not been submitted yet, so our engineering costs aren't included here. Inspections aren't included. What questions do you have for me?
I note that we don't have any expenses from Dan.
Right.
Is that now done, or do we anticipate that
No.
there'll be some additional billing?
There'll
We'll have
definitely be
more.
billing. He's still working on claim, for example, and he's still cleaning up some stuff from the impact fees. So there'll be more.
Okay.
But in general, they're pretty small this month. These are some of the pass-throughs. You see a fair bit of legal pass-through. There's going to be York Hall and Guyman stuff coming through as well. It's going to be pass-through for legal.
We didn't have any noticing pass-throughs. I guess we
We
didn't
didn't
really have it. We
Uh,
didn't approve any. Yeah, that makes sense.
We don't have those.
We have some, we notice public hearings of all kinds, Jerry. So some of those noticings could be, I don't know, Janet, if this is related to annexation or not. If it's annexation, we can pass it through. If it's noticing of other public hearings, then we can't.
It was public hearing. That was one notice.
Well,
Yeah, but
planning
I'm saying if it had
commission.
to do with annexation, it's a pass-through. If it was for a public hearing because we're approving a subdivision or something, then it's not a pass-through.
Oh, is that right? So when planning commission heard the final for Lakeview,
Well, I guess that's a pass-through too. No, that goes to the subdivision. You're right.
yeah.
So it'd just be
So
a public hearing for like our policy changes.
right, right.
That would have been a town expense. Yeah.
But if this is September timeframe that we're talking about, there should be something there for noticing then for Lakeview.
We haven't received bills from Park Record for
Okay.
a while.
Okay.
Are we expecting anything to come in from Mitchell, Barlow, and Mansfield?
Oh, we have it, Chris, but it's being built out. We're not. It's come in and it's being rebuilt directly to N Brockbank Investments or whatever the name of that company is that he's running for that.
Okay. So we'll never see any of those passing through that we expect.
No, we're that's going direct. 100% of that goes directly to him. The reason you're seeing Peak Law and York Hall and Guyman is because they're doing work for us as well as for the annexation. So that's why it's reflected on the spreadsheet. The MBM bill is 100% pass through. Nothing
Okay, thank you.
nothing that the town would be responsible for. Enterprise fund. Again, nothing unusual here. It's our typical water bill, and the various folks that support us in water and sewer enterprise fund based matters.
Oh, we contracted Summit County Health to do a water test. We
send our water out to the health department all the time as required by law. Sometimes we use Summit, sometimes we use Wasatch. It depends who's got availability and so forth, but we send it out. This is not an unusual charge. We do it all the time. It's part of running a potable water system. And we published the results of there was results we published on our webpage as well. That's also required by law, that we inform the constituency that the water has been tested and found to be of within the state water quality guidelines and suitable for consumption. Any other questions on the bills? All right, then I would like a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
I'll
And a second?
second. I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. Ralph,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes.
Thank you. Pay the bills. Number 10. Wes, I see you out there. Let's see if we can get you unmuted. Or if maybe you're set up to unmute yourself. Let me look and see. I gotta
So
look at the
I'm
participants.
available for the discussion. I know Jan was gonna maybe lead the discussion a little bit tonight.
Okay.
I'll defer to her just a little bit. I provided the financials to the council for July and August, and the discussion that I've had with Jan is that I'll be providing those the first week of each month. Issue those out and send them out to the council, and as well as Jan and Alicia.
Yeah,
So-
I'm glad to hear that, because we received that today, and honestly, I haven't even looked at it. So having a more lead time to be able to review those would be good.
So the discussion I'd had with Jan is that I would really discuss the financials probably at the next council meeting that we had. I think we might have some questions in regards to certain expenditures that maybe the town is looking to consider, and whether we need to consider a budget resolution or just a general discussion on the budget and what we may want to cut back on.
So we have a
Yeah,
contract. Sorry.
No,
We have
Jan,
a
please go ahead.
contract that we need to decide on with Wasatch County Police Department. And in order to afford the contract, we need to amend our budget. And let me just back up and talk about the budget process this year. Because we were in COVID, we went through and we eliminated everything not absolutely essential from the budget. We went bare bones because we didn't know how COVID would affect our building permits and our town revenues. And it turns out that it hasn't. In fact, our revenues seem to be just fine. And in fact, we're a little ahead of where we were last year. And we've done projections with building permits. We're expecting approximately 40 more through the end of the year. And then we have next spring, which could be a really good year. So we need to go through, and now that we have 1 quarter's worth of data in our fiscal year, Wes and I are going to go through and go line by line and come up with a reasonable budget. This is what we anticipated doing when we created this bare bones budget. It's a 1 quarter follow-up, and there are things that we really should be spending, but in our COVID diet, we took them out. So we will be amending the budget, or I suggest we amend the budget, and I suggest we put money in there for the safety, the public safety. And that's why I want to defer till the next meeting and we go ahead and notice it up as if we are amending our budget. And Wes and I have been working together and will continue to do so and make recommendations for the next meeting.
Jan, is the budget committee still constituted, or is that dissolved at this point?
Well, we lost Vetus and we lost Kurt. So Wes
and
John Sherwood.
and we lost John. And we lost John.
We lost John. So Wes and I,
So
we did most of the detailed work. You know, he and I were working together on the numbers to provide to the other budget committee members. I don't feel like we need to include anybody at this point, but would present the changes to the entire council at the next meeting.
But we do need to, as an aside, we need to recruit some new folks to be on the budget committee. You know, we've had some turnover, and we had some roles assigned for each of the council members to be sponsoring certain types of activities that need to be managed across the town. And with the turnover, those all have in transition. So I think we also need to revisit that and figure out how we're going to get those pieces back on track. And I'll take that on with the folks who are new to council, since we have 3. Sorry, I'm just making a note. Okay. Thank you, Jan. Any other questions for Jan or Wes on the budget? So, short summary: we are in good shape regarding the budget. We are not overspent in anything at the moment, and if it continues, it presents some opportunities for us to potentially advance some things that we had put off in the original budget. And she's going to come forward with a plan to have us review those, the things we're thinking about potentially advancing.
Other thing that maybe I ought to just bring up briefly is set up on the financial statements a COVID fund. We need to set a budget for that fund as well, with to address the spending on the COVID grant and to track that separately in a separate fund. So I've set that up. We just need to go through the process of setting up a budget where that's just occurred recently. We just need to set a budget for that fund. So I'll make sure that me and Jan work on that together and get that prepared as well.
And we also need a chart of accounts line item for the collection of impact fees.
So I've set up the impact fee funds
Okay, good.
for those, as well as I've gone through the process of setting up the coding so that Carol can code those to the different impact fees. I believe I have one additional code that she's asked me to address that I'll get addressed tomorrow. And you know, I'll present to council those different impact fee funds. It's good to track those in separate funds where they're restricted assets, restricted for
Right.
use. It's
Yeah.
good to have them in a separate fund.
Yeah, the other thing the other thing we need to do with those is that we do have we do get to take an administrative expense before passing those on. So we need to be able to track that portion that we're retaining for administrative costs. And we can talk about that. We can talk about that separately if you need, Wes, but
Okay.
we have, because we're managing, the creation of that fund, the tracking of it, the paperwork that you're going to do on it and so forth, we're allowed to take some percentage. So we'll have to make sure that we agree on what that percentage is and track that.
Okay.
Any other questions on for Wes on the budget?
And I'll probably try to bring a resolution as I work with Jan, and also maybe have a more in-depth discussion here in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Wes, thanks for being here. Okay, the next three things should be relatively quick. Well, this one could be, number 11 could be the whole night, or it could be relatively quick, but it's been very dry. We've been very lucky. We continue to have areas of town that have growth that is higher than our code allows. We say all kinds of stuff has to be knocked down, other than trees and stuff. To be knocked down to 6 inches or less. And we have places where we have pretty high stuff. It's sort of related to weeds as well. And I think where we can agree that we can find a way to go out and kill weeds, I don't think we're going to go out and kill all the grasses and everything as well. So we need to think about what do we need to think about going forward. We're about to get weather this weekend. I think the weather's turning. We're probably getting into winter season, but at some point we need to be finding time, and we have a lot on our plate right now, but we need to have in the back of our mind, what do we want to do come spring? How do we want to behave differently around trying to manage that growth? I don't know what we do. I mean, I don't want to strip our hillsides and look at dirt piles, but
Yeah, and there's a balance between, we've got a lot of sagebrush and other sorts of brushy plants versus grasses. And, if a shrub is allowed to be, 24 inches, why isn't grass? And coming up with the right balance there to say, what's the right mix? Because there are some grass styles that just grow taller, and, they are nice when they're green.
yeah, but like the June grass, I mean, appropriately named June grass is great through June, and then it turns all brown and dries up. And right now, all the hillsides, everything's dry. I mean, it's all instant. It's instant death once that goes. So I don't know what the answer is, folks. We've talked about it before. I just don't know. Is it more fire breaks? Is it? I don't know. So I'm not looking to talk about it tonight. I just want to plant the seed that if we're going to try and do something different for next spring, summer, fall, we need to do that in this upcoming season so that we can have some mechanisms in place to try and address it. So something to think about. Okay. So I'll just try and keep it on the back burner, and then I'll resurrect it in December and see if we've got some thoughts. 12, Chris. Sorry, Chris, wrong. Jan has been doing some work to figure out how to basically take over weed control for instead of having we send out individual letters, we make people submit receipts, all that kind of stuff. It is relatively ineffective. And so, Jan, I'll let you jump in here.
Okay, a quick update. We have 56 reports. That's about 37% of the single lots. We have reports from GCD homes, other developments, but they're unsatisfactory as far as it's not adequate at this point. We don't have any reports from Park City Mountain Builders, Outlaw Golf Course. Other developments have not reported to us. I would like to talk to Polly about creating a district where we can set up something more functional that operates without us contacting every resident. And this is something that I figure we can do after we get through the pressing issues of annexation. So that's really all I have to say at this point, but I haven't forgotten it, and I'm eager to do something about it because we're spending way too much time and not getting the results that we need.
Jan, you suggesting this is something that the town just does and then bills the appropriate funds for the service?
Exactly. Yeah, either we do it through, we have to, we need to get a proposal that Jan's going to work on here. Do we do it through tax increase? Do we do it through just basically consider it a utility service and add it to the utility bill? You get a water bill, you get a sewer bill, you get stormwater, you get a stormwater fee and a weed fee, or do we create some other mechanism that basically, we would then bid out to 2 or 3 companies, get the lowest bid for doing the work, and they would do the whole town. They would just come in and knock it out.
The issue we have to think about, though, is that the HOAs right now are responsible for it, and they're presumably charging their people for that. So, billing the HOA keeps
some of the HOAs, Jerry.
Okay.
Some.
Okay. Well, I guess the concern would be that those residents where the HOA is doing that service don't pay twice for it.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
This needs some definite thought. We can't have a one-size-fits-all approach here. We've got large landowners who aren't doing their part. But we have some of them who are. HOAs who may be doing it, maybe not doing it. Individual lot owners who may be doing it, maybe not doing it. I don't want to encumber my neighbor who's doing their weeds, taking care of their weeds, with some kind of special service district fee or, some fee tacked onto their utility bill because the golf course isn't taking care of their weeds. So we can't do a one size fits all. I think we've got to have 5 sizes or whatever it is, and use the power of our nuisance ordinances and ability to fine and collect. And I don't think, once again, we do have a problem, but it's not everyone's problem. And my neighbor who's doing their part shouldn't be paying for other landowners who are not.
Chris, I agree with you. We have an equity issue, and I think we need to sit down with a variety of stakeholders, including the HOA, and understand how this is going to work out. So it's fair to everyone. We address weeds appropriately, and some people aren't carrying the costs while others are producing weeds and seeds.
Yeah.
And I totally get your position, Chris, and I understand it, but I think there's something else here that if the application happens all at once, you get a better coverage. If you have, you
No.
know, property one
You're
applies.
assuming all the property has weeds, right? You're
Well-
talking only about the weedy properties, the application on the weedy properties, not everybody's property. I'm
Yeah,
not,
but if my neighbor has weeds and doesn't treat, and I did, then his seeds are going to blow my direction and could cause, you know, additional issues. So if the town is the one doing the spraying and they do it all at once, and then, you know, if the HOA is currently you know, doing that or charging their residents for that, then bill the HOA. If, you know, I think the bill back is the 5 sizes. I think the approach that keeps the town staff and everybody else from having to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to chase all this down is just do it and bill the people that need to be billed.
I thought we were doing that already, Jerry. Right? I thought people got their 2
No,
warnings, and
Chris.
then after that, the town sent our weed sprayer out there to take care of it.
We have not been doing that holistically, Chris. We have not. So,
That's why there's thistle on the lot next to me that never got taken care of. Yeah, Jerry, it blew into my yard. It's a pain in the neck. And yeah, I have to remove some thistle. But I just think we need to execute on what we had planned. I know that Carol Custerly spins a lot of wheels trying to get this done. She's very dedicated to weed control, noxious weed control. She's our representative on the Wasatch Weed Board meetings. She's very passionate about this. So I agree we have to do something different, but let's execute what we had planned. Let's execute that. 2 warnings, and then those empty lots get sprayed, not somebody's property with a house on it.
Well, yeah, I hear that, but if my neighbor gets his 2 warnings and still doesn't spray, I still want the town to spray it and bill him.
Yeah,
Whether
I,
it's
on the
an
other
empty lot
hand,
or
don't. I don't know. I don't know when I became so, usually I'm more like socially minded, but I'm really like all about individual rights lately. So yeah, it definitely bears more discussion. I agree that we have a problem. We have a weed problem, but instead of worrying about the individual lot owners, let's go after the big property owners. They're the biggest offenders. Let's get them. You know, my neighbor between, you know, on the other side, the property owner, they never responded to the notices that the town sent because they say they never got them. But then when the other neighbor called them and said, hey, can you deal with your thistle? They came out and did it. So we really have to focus on the big property owners. So we're talking about the GCDs, the Mustang development, and the HOAs, the golf course, the big properties. And, you know, we can't get rid of weeds everywhere. We'll never win that. But we do have to go after the big property owners because they're the biggest offenders. That's my opinion.
Phil, that may have been more discussion than you were intending tonight, but yeah, you're right. We do need to spend some time trying to figure out what the right approach is.
Yeah, I mean, bits and pieces.
I've made note of all your concerns, Chris, and yeah, let's
Thanks.
get something more constructive.
Let's find a way to find them or whatever, figure out a way to get the big property owners into compliance.
So, you know, one thought is, you know, Chris was asking, you were talking about equity. I mean, this stuff is a per square foot kind of thing. So based on your lot size, that's how that's how your little thing, how your utility bill, for lack of better terminology, would be impacted. Saying if I don't have weeds, I don't need to spray. Well, okay, probably some truth to that, but I mean, I've lived here for 4 years now and I've had to spray every year and I weed my garden and work on the yard and everything else, and I still end up with thistle and some of that junk. So,
Because it's blowing in from GCD onto your property, probably. But
so,
yeah, it's
you know,
inevitable. We can't
so I'm
eradicate the weeds.
so
We
I'm
can just
paying, you know,
try
I'm
to
paying
make-
my 30 bucks one way or the other. So
we can just try to make them better. We'll never eradicate them. It'll never happen. We just have to get rid of the
No.
big collections of them, which are on those large pieces of property, like the golf course.
just like internet trolls, you can't make them go away.
You can't make them all go away. So I just think we need to focus on the big problem. Stop worrying about, solving it all. Let's just solve the biggest offenders.
We'll let this group, we'll let Jan do some more work on this and Carol, and we'll get some thoughts from Polly as well around what we can learn from other communities, et cetera. And
Yep,
hopefully
will do.
the goal is to come back no later than early next year with proposals so that we can get into the weed cycle for the spring.
Yep. Agree.
Okay.
So my battery
Jan,
is almost toasted.
so can you do
I'll
a
give you
quick 2 minute on the, can you do a quick 2 minute
Yes.
on the Todd Hollow?
Yep. So I was successful in finding the appropriate CARES information, as well as another company, another organization for dealing with tenants who are being evicted, and forwarded that information. Also reached out to Pete at the community center. He set up a meeting last month, and there are no eviction schedules for this month. And Candace at Todd Hollow said that she would notify me if they were facing further evictions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. That's great news. I appreciate you staying in touch about that.
Sure.
Okay. So we've actually got through a very long agenda in about 3 hours, which is good focus on our part. And I appreciate all the council's effort tonight to stay on point and keeping us moving through. This concludes our agenda of public information, or publicly discussed information. Unfortunately, we do have pending or reasonably imminent litigation, personal matters, and or sale acquisition of real property is needed for discussion, which would require us to move to a closed executive session. So I would need a motion to close the public meeting and move to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Chris?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Thank you all. It's 9:12 p.m. and we will close the public meeting. And what I'm going to do is end it for all, and then take Chris's mandatory bio break. And we'll get back on at 9:15. And we'll be very specific around who we add to the meeting.
Okay. So we rejoin this meeting.
We'll rejoin this, but we'll be only let in the council people. So please turn your video on so we know it's you and not someone else.
Very good.
Okay,
Thank
so
Thank you.
we get off of this one and then come back on?
Yeah, same link, but you'll be in the waiting room and we'll just admit the people we want to admit.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have to drop off, a whole number of names on the list, so it gets tedious. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you.